Alright, so last time we went through the UI, the hub, and so did I push that? I think I did push that code, right? Yes, I did. All right. So. So, you guys know that because you guys are Sac State students, or we, me included, that we have our own website where we can have our own website. You guys know this, right? So we can host our own documents. So this is usually the portal, and then you do a tilde, so it's athena.ecs.csus.edu/tilde. The tilde is a shift, and then the button next to the number 1 on your keyboard. And then it's your ECS account, the one that you use to log into Athena over SSH or whatever. So mine is this, and then here pops up the thing that I was working on that I never finished. Okay, and the reason why I bring that up is because today's goal is to actually deploy what we have currently, quote-unquote, working up into Athena using WebGL, right? So I have not done this ahead of time on purpose, so any errors that we encounter, we'll encounter them together, and then we'll figure it out. Plus we have Corbin here, so we'll definitely figure it out. So make sure you have your build settings set to WebGL. And if you don't have this module installed, make sure you open up the Unity Hub. And then where you can go is go to installs, go to the version that you're actually working with. So I believe right now we're working with 2018.4.13. Click on the 3 little dots menu, and you can go to add modules, and then you can select any modules that you would like to use. For example, WebGL for our purposes. Okay, and I think WebGL's module is about 800 megabytes. So, all right. So in the build settings, file, build settings, click on WebGL, switch your platform, and let it do its thing. So every time you want to build to a new platform, you're gonna have to go through this process, and it needs to generally has to go through all your assets, for example the audio files, images, and then put them in formats that are most optimized for that particular module. For example, Android, when using particular types of images, it likes to encode them. That works best for Android. So it's usually some type of compression. Okay, so that will usually take a while, as all these assets have to be re-imported. Okay. Now, just to make sure that everything is set up correctly, we need to go to player settings. Okay. Now, in the resolution and presentation, you can actually set up the window size for your WebGL project. Because your WebGL project, this will actually be embedded inside of a web page. So Unity will actually generate an index.html file for you. It's just a default one. But once you have it, you can do whatever you want. You know, the important thing is the JavaScript code that actually loads it. So we can actually inspect the the JavaScript, and if you want to inject this into whatever your stack is to generate your HTML, you can totally do that. Why not? So if you're using Vue, React, or just vanilla HTML, you should have no problem. So let's go to the other settings and make sure everything is up to okay. So for some reason, if you switch it to debug mode on WebGL build, it takes a really long time. Generally, debug builds are supposed to be much faster because a lot of things are ignored. But the files, the APKs would generally be bigger because no optimization, no stripping has been done. But for some reason, release is much faster to build. So
I bet it's only because it's a smart project. Have you seen
probably
larger projects as well?
At least as far as this is concerned. Yeah.
I bet with larger projects it's probably a lot faster to do release, but for small projects you're having to include so much extra stuff
Probably.
that it's just you're compiling everything.
Yeah.
That's a guess.
Yeah. But that's what I've read on the Unity forums and stuff like this. For some reason, I don't know idea. But yeah. Always use debug builds when you're just like testing things out. That way you can actually hook from Unity. You can actually use the profiler. You can hook into it. You can also use the console to view any errors that are happening. Once you have release, all that stuff gets stripped out because it's a release build. So it's supposed to be as optimized and as small as possible. Okay, so we have that. Everything else looks good. Cool. So now let's go ahead and play it just so we can see what we have so far. So as remember, we have this. Oh, and then we have the audio, the godforsaken audio that we have. Here we go. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Right? And then you can whack him. Right?
Our client got to pay at least like a couple extra thousand for that.
Right. Okay, so we have this working. So now let's just go ahead and build it. So build settings. We're gonna hit build. And then remember, wherever your project is at, so example, here's my the whack-a-mole. I think I went over this the last time. It's generally good. It's a good practice to in your projects have a builds folder, right? And make sure if you're using GitHub like we are, that inside your git ignore, you have a build to ignore the builds folder because you don't want to. That's like you don't push builds, right? And then you want to organize this properly. So inside of my builds, I have one for Android and then I have one for WebGL. Okay, so I'm going to hit the select folder. Okay. And it should start building out my project.
Don't die.
I'm encoding my data, and all it says is A, like capital A for like a mile. Sorry.
I don't know what to say, but
That's a sign I should stop project.
screen off.
Now, who's running Windows? Okay, who's running Windows 10? Okay, so everybody's running Windows 10. So with Windows 10, they have you now have SCP and SSH commands now in the command prompt. So if I type in cmd there's two commands we're going to need. So this thing opens. My little computers are going to burn. Did I click on it? There we go. So you have SCP, which stands for secure copy. Now, generally the way you use secure copy is that you're going to take a file from one end and you want to send it over to somewhere else. In the middle, however, there's going to be some authentication that is required. For example, if I want to send something to Athena, in order for me to communicate with Athena, I have to actually use my credentials, which is my login and my password, in order to get in. Okay, so if I just use CP, it will always fail because Athena is will block it because it's going to say, I need your username and password, and CP by itself does not have that ability to handle that subroutine. SCP does. The next command that we're going to need to use is SSH. So SSH is a secured shell. Okay. Basically, what you can do with SSH is you create a tunnel between two computers, A and B. Now, the reason why it's a tunnel is because it allows information or data to flow in a bidirectional manner. So you can send data and then you can receive data. Okay. Now, can you do all of this with PuTTY? No. And the reason why is because we have data on our local machine that we're trying to send up. So you can't use PuTTY because PuTTY is going to log you in to a remote shell, and now your environment is that remote shell. So how else can we upload files? We can use something like FileZilla. You need some kind of FTP transfer program to do this. Now we could do that, but I don't like to use GUIs. I like to try as much as I can to use commands because you never know when you don't have access to a GUI. You need to know how to use raw commands.
Something else I'll mention is that FileZilla has now been compromised. In very recent versions, they installed malware with FileZilla. Yeah.
Which sucks because FileZilla is then much easier.
Yeah, FileZilla has always been around since I can remember.
If you do want to use FileZilla, go check down the really old download it before you install it.
You know,
An alternative to FileZilla, WinSCP, that's one.
that
For
one.
Windows.
CyberDuck on that.
CyberDuck, yeah.
Works okay.
CyberDuck. Or just use the raw commands. Well, to be fair, however, I don't have all the commands memorized, so I know where to go look for them, and that's the difference. Okay, I don't memorize this stuff, so I can just look it up. Okay. Now, who knows what make is? Make files. Okay, so nobody. So, make is a program that you can use that it will read a file and execute certain commands one at a time. Okay. Now, there's some structure to make to the make file. The make file you can actually have certain commands. So you can say like make run, make clear, make whatever, and the command that you're calling, you basically create that tag, and then you just have a bunch of commands that follow that tag, and then that's it. That's basically it. That's all make is, but it's very, very powerful. Unfortunately, Windows does not have make, right? Because, reasons. If you're on Linux or any kind of Unix-based system, generally you have make kind of pre-installed. If not, you can just install it using like yum install or yarn or something. So we can't use make because then we can automate this. So I actually have something to automate this if you're on a, either on a Mac or if you're on a Linux machine. So this is the make file I made. It's very, very basic. Okay, it's not a whole lot going on. Okay. So I'm going to use this make file because it has all the steps. You know, all these things are called like recipes. You know, I'm not gonna. It's not a make file crash course. Yeah. So for those that want to use this make file, if you have a Linux machine like a Mac or something like that, I'm gonna throw this up onto the Discord, and then you can grab it there. So I'm gonna open up Discord. Sure, why not? And then go to announcements. And go ahead and drag this here. This make file is to automate and upload WebGL projects to. Yeah. Cool. So if you have a Linux machine or a Mac, you can actually just grab that make file. And you just have to do one modification, and that's input your ECS account. So for the Windows, I won't say anything, but we can't do that. So does Windows have tar? Good, it does. Bash? Yeah, this has tar though. Not everybody has Git Bash. I have Git Bash.
I was only pointing out.
Yeah. This doesn't have make though. Does it? No, it does not. What's that? It has SCP and has SSH. That's it. Those are the big things. Yeah. But so. Is it backslash? Oh, dir. And then, yes. Okay. CLS. Cool. So we're in here. This is our root project in terminal or command prompt, right? So if I type in dir, I can see all of my the contents of this particular directory. We need to go into our builds, particularly. We need to go inside the WebGL folder that we created, because inside there is going to be, well, everything we need. So we're going to go inside builds. Cool. Nice. And so then here's all of our data, the output. So go here, WebGL. This index.html was generated by Unity. In fact, it even gives you the timestamp right here. It was generated at 3:21. All of this. So this is our actual WebGL project, right? Unfortunately, however, the best way to upload this is we need to like compact it. So you can like zip it up and then send it off. So we can use something like tar, and use gzip, zip it up, and then we send it over to Athena. Okay. So I'm going to use my make file as my guide here of the things that we need to do. So the first thing, we need to zip everything up. And here we have this command called gzip. So first we need to call tar, actually. So we got to tar it first. And inside of our WebGL project, we're going to move up one directory. Okay, because this WebGL folder, we're going to tar this entire thing. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to tar it, basically make it into one folder that's zipped and has all my contents, and I'm going to send that to Athena, and then from Athena, I'm going to unpack it. Okay. Once I unpack it, though, we're going to run into a problem, and that problem is a permissions issue that Athena forces on all files, and that's basically they're not executable and they're not viewable by the public. This is a web page. We want this to be viewable and executable by the public. Okay? So we can fix that. Cool. So, using my handy dandy makefile over here, I will follow the codes. So first, I need to tar it. So step 1 is tar. So I'm going to call tar.cvf. The name I want it to be after I tar it. So I'm going to call this, I don't know, what should I call this? What is it called? Whack-a-mole? Whack-a-mole.tar. Okay. And in the source folder, what is it that I'm going to compact? Okay. That is the WebGL folder. That's it. Okay, hit enter. Cross your fingers as Windows. Hey, that looks pretty good. All right, so far so good. Now if we hit dir, there is our tarred folder. So far, so good. Windows is holding its ground. Okay, next we need to zip it up. Okay, so we call gzip. First, let me even see if Windows has gzip. Okay, no, it does not. So that sucks. But you know what? It's okay. You see, the only reason why you want to use gzip is because you want to compress it a little bit more. Okay. Now that's generally best if like you're paying for the bandwidth, because the school's paying for it. We just won't zip it up. I'm just gonna send it like that. Good enough for me. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Sac State, my tuition. All right, so we'll skip the gzip. However, it's good practice to always zip up your files.
Not just because of compression, but because doing transfers over multi-file is fairly slow, especially since most of these types of transfers don't use something like HTTP2, which sends files
Chunks at a time.
Chunks at a time, and also like multiple files at a time.
Yeah.
So if you're using something like
multiplexing.
Yeah, that's exactly the term.
Nerd.
So not,
okay.
So not only is it more expensive because you're paying for bandwidth, it's also a lot
slower. Yeah.
Way slower, and that's my big issue. I don't want to stick around.
Me neither.
I just don't want to stick around.
Well, hopefully our the internet is pretty fast. Let's look at Skynet, see how fast it is. So now we begin the upload process. Okay. Now the first thing is we need to send this off to Athena. Okay. Now I am going to open up another shell. Okay. Let's have another one. Now I just want to see how Athena looks like. Okay. So I'm going to do SSH. Okay. So this is my ECS login. So you just use yours. Okay. And that's it. Okay. I'm in the mainframe, right? I can use LS. I'm back in my Linux environment. I'm happy. Okay. So where does all of your HTML stuff live? So Sac State provides us with this folder called HTML. It's blue, or at least on here it's blue. Anything that's like sort of kind of colored generally indicates it's a folder. So we're going to move into our HTML. Okay. And there is my landing page that you see when you go to my particular Athena quote-unquote website. This is all my stuff. In fact, I can say cat index.html, and as you can see, this is just a straight HTML web page. Okay, this is everything you see there. Okay, it's just HTML. Okay. Now, something you'll also notice is I have this thing called Secret Santa, and it's a folder. Now, what is that, you might be asking? So, I think I spoke about this the last time. My friends and I, we did a Secret Santa, and I decided to do, I wanted to play with WebGL, so I decided to go a little bit further. So I built this little WebGL, little interface where you can log in. And so all I had to do was share, right? I just had to share to my friends, go to my root, domain, quote unquote, which was this. And all I had to type in was Secret Santa. Basically just the folder, right? Because if we're inspecting here, right? Right here. Secret Santa, that's a folder. So anything that's a folder, okay, becomes part of the URL. The / whatever, those are generally folders. So if I hit enter, Athena is okay to handle WebGL. So we can totally do this, right? So my WebGL project loads and everything is good and dandy. Okay? So I won't, put you through that. But yeah. Okay? So what should we expect if everything goes well? We should have a folder here called Whack-A-Mole. So then we can do whatever our ECS HTML web page URL is, / Whack-A-Mole, and we should see a WebGL project load. Yes?
One more time, how did you get this?
I opened up a command prompt, and then I just typed in SSH. See, I'll just do it again. Okay. So I literally go here, open up a new shell, and there I am. This is just Windows. Okay. They support SSH now through command line, so I'm just using that. Next, SSH, meaning log me in remotely to a secured site, which is Athena. Now the way it works is generally goes the username followed by the domain or IP. So my ECS account is my last name. Bless you. And then my first initial, which is K. And then the domain, which is at athena.ecs.csus.edu. Now, it doesn't have to be this. This is true regardless. For example, I think I have here, I have a make file, and I have a make file that was sending this project to Amazon EC2 server that I had built. So it was sending it there, right? And this is slightly different, but the username was Ubuntu, and then the origin was this IP that I have to, which is, the endpoint here, which is this long ass URL. Okay. In our case, it's just, it's just athena.ecs, but it's the same concept here. Okay. So. Then once you hit enter, it's just going to ask you for your password, because SSH knows how to handle this request. Because Athena is going to send back a request saying, hey, I need some authentication. And I just type in my password, and I'm in the mainframe. Right? Next, I just ls. Yes?
I don't get the bash. I get the whole Athena, last name at Athena.
Oh, that's because I don't like corn shell. I use bash. Yes, because if you say echo shell, mine will say bin bash. Yours might say C shell or Z shell or whatever shell. Yes. Don't know why.
Yeah, that seems like extra effort on their part.
Especially for compiling. I like to use //
For a worse.
Yeah.
But okay.
So yeah, that's why mine looks like this. So yours I probably should have noted that. I'm using bash, but you can use whatever shell you like. I grew up on bash, so I'm gonna just stick to bash till I die. Okay? Cool. So remember, this right command prompt is going to be Athena, what I see in Athena. The left is my local, is local. Okay, this is what's on my computer. This is what's on Athena. All right. Okay. So I need to upload my tar file. So the right side here is going to be my instructions. So I'm just going to follow this. So I need to say SSH. Oh, not that. We go to step number 2 over here. So SCP stands for secure copy. So this is going to allow me to send some file or files, depending on how I do this, to a remote server that requires authentication. And in our example, we're using Athena. Okay, so I'm calling SCP. Okay, and then the ECS account again. But check OK for me. Okay, and then you need to tell it where do you want it to go. So in order for you to specify a location, you have to use first a colon. Then you specify where you want it. So the easiest way for you to never mess it up, okay, is you want it to be in your home directory, right? Because the HTML folder is inside your home directory. So always use a tilde. Tilde is a symbol for literally home, wherever your home path is, okay? So I'm going to send it to my home path / HTML folder. Because that's where I want it to go, right? So I'm going to do that. Hit enter. And, oh, right. I am a ditz. So, after the SCP, you should specify what you're trying to send over, right? So I'm trying to send the whack-a-mole. Okay, I'm trying to send whack-a-mole file, the tar one, up. So there it is. And then okay, now it's going to ask me for my password. Okay, there it goes. It's uploading. There, done. Did you see that? There's a little progress thing. It's up. So let's go over here to the right side. This is the state of the machine when I did an LS, right? Now if I do an LS now, hey, look at that, it's right there. Whack-a-mole.tar. I just uploaded that, so it's there. Now, I could do the tarring to untar it on Athena, but I can also do it from my machine. So technically, if I build these commands, I never actually have to log into Athena ever. So I'm going to untar this from my machine. How do you do that? With SSH, you can actually send it commands as well. So just be careful with how you do this. Okay? All right. So how do we do this? So for my machine, I'm going to say SSH. My account, kind of like I'm logging in. Okay, and then inside of single quotes, I can actually pass it a command for it to execute on my behalf remotely. Okay, so when this happens, you will be inside of your root directory, wherever your home is, right? So we need to make sure that we are inside of our HTML folder, okay? So we need to, the first command we need to send it is change directory HTML. Now, we need to send it another command. Now, how do you chain commands? Use a semicolon. Semicolon allows you to chain commands. So I'm going to use a semicolon. Next command. The next command is over here. That's the tarring. Okay, this command's pretty long. Okay, it's quite a bit. Okay, so just hang on. Okay, next we need to call tar dash zxf, meaning unpack it, please. Okay, we can actually remove the z because it's not gzipped, so it's just xf because we didn't gzip it. Okay, tar, and then what is the file? Well, it was whack a mol dot tar, right? End of that command. We need to do another command, so we're going to do a semicolon to chain the next command. The next command is I want to remove my tar file. I don't want it there, so I'm going to remove it using the rm command. So be very careful here. Do not use star. Remove whack a mol dot tar. That file that we just untarred, we want to remove it. Okay. Semicolon. All right. Now I'm just gonna leave it at that because I want you guys to see what the problem is. Okay. So we're gonna hit enter and cross your fingers. Okay. Oh. Okay. I missed the E right there. Okay. Here we go. Password. Now, just really quickly, I want to go back over here. I want to do an ls. There's my whack-a-mole.tar. All right. I'm going to hit enter on this side to enter my password. And then what happened here? Did I miss something? No? Alright. Maybe Windows can't handle that. I don't know. Alright, whatever. Let's just do it on Athena then. Alright. I don't want to waste too much time. So we are inside here, so we're just run tar.xf whack-a-mole.tar. Okay. If I hit ls, what happened? See, I knew we were going to run into a problem. I forgot how to untar. Okay. Untar a tar file.
tar.xz, some other things.
Not Z because we didn't gzip it.
Hey, we know this wiki. Still wiki.
Oh, here we go. University of Texas. and sign? Oh, you did an and sign?
It's like the internet site.
Oh,
Kind of works, but then it doesn't recognize RM.
RM, which is remove. Oh, that's interesting. Because it should be sending that string over to Athena, and Athena should be able to like, because it's Linux, right? Interesting. I just forgot how to untar a tar file. That's what I did. Excellent. Doesn't B mean verbose? Oh, it had already worked the first time. I'm an idiot. It's WebGL. That's the folder. It's WebGL. Yeah, I'm dumb. Okay. Sorry. It had to work the first time, except the folder wasn't Whack-A-Mole. I had Tarday, the folder called WebGL. Anyways, so there we have it. So here, if I just go here, now you should probably change the name, but if I type in WebGL, right, we have this. So that's progress, right? And there it is. And the sound's coming in. Okay, so I'll just okay, so let me mute this. Alright. So yeah, so now, so do you guys see that? You know, I want everybody to just go to this URL. So let me just copy this and then go to Discord. Okay. So just go, click on that link, and you should now have access to the WebGL project hosted on Athena. Right? So it sort of kind of works on mobile. So, you know,
That was a lot of asterisks.
yeah, it'll load, and then sometimes it'll actually go through. Sometimes it won't. It's kind of hit or miss. Yeah, it'll work, but I don't think your touch inputs will actually go through. I'm not entirely sure. But anyways, was anybody able to click on that link and load up the project?
You have to actually add WebGL to it.
What's that?
You have to actually add WebGL to it.
What?
At the end of the link, it's just here.
Oops. Yeah, good catch. So now if you click on that, right, that is our project. Alright, so I can...
Here, hang on, I can do this.
yeah, you can do it now.
You're all doomed.
Yeah. So, Isaiah, did you get it to work on the phone? It's not gonna work. Yeah, I mean, it might. Maybe it'll work on a tablet. I'm not sure. Maybe it's like, yeah. Sometimes it'll say fail to load or something like that. But if you keep trying, eventually it'll actually go through. You gotta brute force it, but then it doesn't really work. Like you can't touch it. You can't do any touch inputs. Yeah. Cool. All right. So now I kind of wasn't expecting it to work.
A good engineer always.
I was actually kind of expecting it to not work, and the reason why is because permission issues. Okay, now on Athena, when it gets unpacked, all the files by default are locked, so you can see them, but the public right? If you know how to check your permissions using ls-l, the public and executable permissions are locked, right? So you have to do a chmod or whatever to actually change the permissions. So I'm actually kind of see, if I do a ls-l here, I can see the permissions, and this is the permission that I'm talking about. Okay. Now you'll notice that this whack-a-mole.tar file has no permission for the world to actually be able to view this. So if I were to go to my handy dandy web browser and if I were to type in whack-a-mole.tar file, we know it exists there. It should say file permission or forbidden. Here we go. This is what I was expecting to actually see on the index.html. That did not happen. Okay, so for you guys that try to send up a WebGL project and you run into this problem, that's what it is. Because you notice that we have the tar file from our local machine. We sent it up to Athena. What was the first thing that Athena did to that file? It changed the permission automatically, right? So you can't access it. Okay. So how you would have to go in and change the permissions, and that's actually what this command is supposed to do. Now, this, however, does it recursively. Okay, and the reason why this is important is because our WebGL project is a folder, and inside of that folder has more folders, and inside of those folders are more folders, and inside of every level there are files. So we need to modify not only the folders but also the files. Why? Well, for one, if we don't have access to the folder, we definitely don't have access to the files underneath it. Even if we have access to the folder, we may not have access to the files. And you're going to need those. For example, if you have a web page, you're going to have probably a CSS folder with a main.css file. And if the directory, your CSS folder is doesn't have the permissions to be seen by the public, you won't be able to access your main.css file, and your web page will look all weird. And then once you give permissions to the folder, you still won't be able to load the CSS file until you give permissions to the file as well. So you got to do both, and that's what this command actually does, and it does it in a recursive manner. Okay, so if you end up having issues, you're going to need to run this command. Okay. And this will change the D right here means directory, so like folder. It'll actually change it to 755. So the 55, the last 5 is actually the one you actually care about. That's going to be for read and execute for example, we want to be able to execute the public. So the 5 is actually the one we're actually most interested in here. And then the second one, as you can see here, there's a second command, another find. This one's going to do F. It's going to do the same thing, except this is going to modify the permissions on a file, not a directory. And it's going to be chmod 644. You don't want to execute a file, you just want to be able to read it. For example, your main CSS, your HTML files. So, I'm very surprised that it worked. But there we have it. It worked. But do not expect it to work when working with Athena. Okay? Now, if you're working with AWS and you throw it up on an EC2 server and you just throw it in there, it'll work because it's not going to modify the permissions automatically. That is an admin situation. So you would have to actually, in the configuration, there is actually a way for you to set a default permission for all files that are being uploaded. There's a way to do that. Athena has it strict, and as they should, right? This is a educational institution. They need to protect, their assets. So it makes sense. But this is a way to get around that, right? So make a note of this command. Okay, I obviously linked this make file, you're just gonna have to go in and get the bits and pieces that you actually need. Okay, so now that was a pain in the butt to do one command at a time, and that's why I like to automate these things. That's why having a make file is so nice, because as you can see, here is my instruction called upload. All I have to do on, like, when I'm working on this on my Mac, I just say make and then upload, and it just does all that. I have to just sit there and just type in my password. I could automate the password as well if I do a RSA key. I can just pass in a file and it'll just do it for me. You know, I won't have to mess with it, but you know, I'm kind of lazy on that, so I just type in my password. Okay. Anybody have any questions on WebGL? So it's not bad when it's working, but that's true of most things, right? Okay. Now, we don't want it to be called WebGL. We want it to be called Whack-A-Mole, right? So, you guys know how to change the name of a directory, right? Move WebGL to Whack-A-Mole. There we go. And that's what I want it to do. Okay. There we go. No problem. Okay. Now, wish there was a way for me to mute the audio here. I actually can. Here, right there. Boom, done. All right. Now, in the case that you're running into any issues, especially when you're doing anything that deals with like web development, you always need to have your inspector. Oh, now let's take a screenshot. That's not what I want to do. No, cancel. Okay. Where is it on here? There you go. Inspect element. You always want to have the console open and just see. Right now, it's probably going to be blank, but if I were to reload this, I get everything that I need. I can look at it. Okay, including I can go into the network and I can see what's being passed in and out. Right, so I can see all the local traffic that this particular web page generated. Okay, so I can look at what it's doing. Okay, here's my debugger. If I need to do anything, right? So here you can see, you can go in and work with it however you need. Now here is our console, and this is going to be a our place that we need to see. Okay. Do you have any questions about that? So if you have any errors, the first thing you should do, look inside here, and it'll generally be able to point you into the right direction, or at least in the general area where you need to look. Okay. Cool. Awesome. So that is Whack-A-Mole. Now, we want to add an extra layer here, right? We want to have a main menu that we can actually go in and then come back out. Now, actually, before we even do that, our game's not actually done because there's no, yeah, our loop goes on forever. So, do you want to do this based off time? You have 30 seconds and then it's over? You know, time-based? High score based off time. But first, I'm going to remove these audios because Jesus, I don't wanna. I'm just gonna mute. I'm just gonna lower the volume to 0.1, 10%. Damn, that audio. Essentially, you should have a little menu where you have the audio, right? So you can mute it. So we can build one of those. For now, we're just going to mute that. Save. All right. So all this is going to fall into our game manager here. So we can open this up, do some coding. So, was everybody able to follow the WebGL instructions? Sorta, kinda. Does any questions? If you have questions, ask. That's why, you guys are having issues, don't be shy. Okay. There. Finally, we have a problem. That is a permissions error. The reason why you're getting that Unity loader error is because that file is not accessible. So if you were to go to Athena, log into Athena using, whatever. If you were to do an ls-l and look for that particular JavaScript file, it's a JavaScript file. I'm willing to bet that the very last 2 dashes on the permissions will be hyphens. They are, aren't they? It's a permission problem. How do you fix that? You have to do a chmod 644 if it's a file. 755 if it's a directory. However, that's like playing a game of whack-a-mole. Literally playing a game of whack-a-mole. You'll fix that file. That file will depend on a different file, and then you see what I mean? And now that's why I have this command. So since you're having an issue, okay. So let's play around with yours. So what is your? Oh, I probably can't. Yep. Way too many. Okay. So here's the theme. Want to come over here and type in your URL, and let's go through the debugging process here, because this was an issue. I knew it was going to happen. I thought it was going to happen. It didn't happen for her. Perfect. I wanted it to break. Yeah, okay. Perfect. We go to inspect element. Go to console. Right here. It's not defined. Okay. Now, you have to come back up. You're gonna need to come back up. And then log into your SSH into your Athena. The password was password123. Everybody make a note of that. Alright, cool. We are in. Alright, next. I'm in. RM star. So if you want to remove everything, you do rm-rf star, and that'll remove everything. The F means force. R is recursive. You want to try it?
No.
Alright. So here we're in, oh, yeah. So I'm just going to go ahead and just, so I can't deal with this. So I'm going to go ahead and just go into bash. So I legit can't deal with that. Okay, there we go. So, and you have bash profile, so we can't even have nice syntax coding, whatever. We will exit and we'll just stick with that. Doesn't matter. Okay, so there's our folder, the whack-a-mole folder. Now, we do an ls-l on whack-a-mole. The whack-a-mole has the X, meaning it's executable. Executable has to be true for web stuff. This is a directory. The way you know it's a directory is like, hey, there's a D in the very front. I don't know if you can see that in the screen recording, but there's a D, meaning directory. All right. The first 3 little hyphens here, or the first 3 little slots, That's the permissions for you, right? Your current user. That's your permission. The 3 in the middle is called the. Oh, actually, the first one's going to define whether you're a folder or not. If it's a dash, it means it's a file. If it's a D, that means it's a folder. Sorry. And then there's read, write, and then X is for executable. Okay. And then you have the next 3, which would be if you're part of a group. For example, we are all part of the STD CSC group, right? If you're a CP, you're going to be part of the CPE. If you're ME, you'll be part of the ME group. So everybody has their own cliques, as they would say. And then the last 3 is everybody else. The public, the world. That's the last 3. Read, write, executable. So, luckily, here, we actually have an executable on this directory. So that's good. And it has read, so we can actually read it. Okay, so that's really good. Now let's go inside. Oops. Yes. Okay. Now, here we have executable and read on these on this folder, this build folder. So that's good. But it's possible that there must be a file in here that is messing it up. And none of these subfiles have read permissions. So we're kind of screwed there. Right? Particularly, the error came out of this Unity loader. If we fix this one of these other ones will break. Example, we have to do a sudo chmod. Actually, not sudo. Should be just chmod. We need 644, okay, on unityloader.js. Bam. Now do ls-l. We now have read on the group and on the public. Now, you don't have to have it on the group in our case because it's HTML, but you know, we'll just do it anyway. Now let's go back here and refresh. Okay, so Unity Loader finally worked. Now we have an error occurred. So it shows here that there was an error. Unity progress is not defined. So let's go back. And so there must be a Unity. Okay, so it must be part of this WebGL, this Unity WebGL. I'm guessing it's this file right here, based off what it's called. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just guessing. Let's look over here. So, aha, asm.js code. Okay, so we have a issue actually in template data Unity progress. Okay, so we're gonna go up, template data, ls-l, and hey, look at that. There are more files in there, and they don't have at least read access for the public. And hey, what do you know? There's unityprogress.js. So I'm going back and forth trying to, give read permissions at least to these files, and I'm literally playing a game of whack-a-mole because I fix one bug, another one pops up. All right. So what's a nice solution? Just recursively do this. So where am I now? Okay. Okay. So in here, I'm going to go. Actually, not in here. Let's go to our root in Whack-A-Mole, because this one's okay. Okay? And I'm going to recursively go through every single folder, and I'm going to change not only the folder's permission, but also each file. Okay? Now, how do I do that? Well, I have my cheat sheet that I closed. In here. Open the code conveniently on that side. Okay. And it's going to be this long ass thing. So find, you feed it a directory, so we can actually move up one again. I'm not perfect, I don't memorize everything. Alright, so we're going to say find. Basically, find in the following. If you don't specify a directory, it will just go wherever you're currently at. So I kind of put dot, but whatever. Okay. Anyways, so go into, basically say, go into Whack-A-Mole. So find in Whack-A-Mole the type of directories. Execute the following. chmod 755. Curly brace, space. Okay. Now, you need two. You need to escape the first semicolon and attach a semicolon at the end. Okay. I'm going to chain the next one. Find in Whack-A-Mole, or whatever you call it, type of file. And it's going to be the same thing. I need you to execute chmod, give all the files 744, or I mean 644. 744 doesn't, yeah, no, 744. And then curly braces, like that, space, backslash, semicolon, semicolon. Okay, so let's go here, see if I did that correctly. And yeah, we did. Okay, we will hit enter. Easy peasy. Right? Now let's test it out. Let's go inside Whack-A-Mole. ls-l. Okay, look, these now have executables. Right? I think that was already there. So let's go inside the build. That one for sure we know didn't work. And hey, all the permissions are changed. Nice. Nicely done. Okay, we can test out the, was it the template? And then, hey, look at that. All these files have now been changed to read. And so instead of going one at a time, I use that, and then I don't have to think about it. So now, if we go back to her WebGL project, and if I refresh it, hey, look at that. See, that was supposed to happen the first time. Alright, luckily it happened, and it happened to her, so no, good. Oh god. Alright. No. We will end this. No. Okay. Good. Destroyed it. Nice. Alright. Does that make sense? That was a perfect example of running into all these problems, so thank you. I will make sure to log out of your show. There we go. Or will I? Alright, oh. Okay. Okay. Does anybody else have an issue with WebGL stuff? No? Because when I was working on the Secret Santa thingy, I had that issue. And that's how I solved it. Is that the correct way? I have no idea. But that's the way I solved it, and I called it a day. So if anybody has a better way of solving that, then, yeah, let me know. Okay. So, our goal now, so nobody has a problem? Everybody's good? Yeah? Okay. Our buddy here, Corbin, maybe at some point next week, maybe, I don't know, he will help us build using React. Maybe some React. Alright, we'll do some Vue. So we'll use Vue. And we'll build a, because a lot of, I think, like, for example, for you, Victoria, your web page is the default web page. Is it not? Okay. Something about in construction and blah, 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 blah. So we will use Vue to build at least a single web page, and then we can link the WebGL project. Click a little link, send you to the WebGL. And in fact, we can even use Vue and then just embed our Unity WebGL plugin into our Vue. All it has to do is just render into a frame. Yeah, so you just put it wrap around a div, and now you have your view looking all pretty in your little, WebGL project. That's how websites like congregate. That's exactly what they do. They have all their HTML stuff, and they just have a little A-frame that renders whatever the heck you're doing, whether it's Flash, WebGL, or something else.
And if you're not familiar with Vue, I'll probably start with like an introduction to what Vue is, so it's not just like, all right, we're looking at code now. That's fun.
And he has an awesome title. Hornet Here's a View, an ecosystem overview.
Stand by it. I photoshopped it too. So the first slide you're gonna see Horton and the Vue logo.
There you go.
Proud of that one.
Beautiful. Can't wait. So, we will have the view, and then your permission, record your beautiful voice and all of your finger typing and stuff.
Lots of that.
Lots of finger typing.
More than that than the talking.
So we'll be creating our own web page, and also expose you a little bit to web development and very powerful open source library to build UIs for the web. There's some massive ones. Obviously, there's Vue, there's React, there's Angular. I think that one's dying. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, don't do that to me.
All right, it's around, but it's dying.
No, it has good enterprise support. I say pouting in the corner.
Yeah, poor guy. But yeah, React and Vue are competing, and Vue is starting to gain steam.
Vue is about the size of Angular, especially if you include the Chinese market, because a lot of our numbers don't include the Chinese market.
Oh.
Vue is exploding in China.
Oh, cool. Well, there we go.
In fact, I'd argue that Vue probably has bigger usage in China than React.
Wow.
It's really impressive.
That is, well, there you go. All the more reasons to learn Vue, and it's really powerful, and I like it. Either choice is pretty good, React or Vue.
Honestly, even Angular is pretty good.
We'll stop the conversation there.
No. It's like, look, even if you don't like stuff like .NET or Java, there's still going to be a significant market for this,
yeah.
right? Like, I mean, I remember there was a tech recruiter at one of the meetups that I was at who was like, no play, if you recommend me someone who can do Java well, I'll give you $10K right now. Like, he was really willing to like throw down money, and the position was for a $200K job without any degree required. So if you can do Java really, really well, you're gonna make some bank. And in that same element, like, Angular has some big clients. So it's one of those things where, sure, the adoption rate might not be huge, but one, Angular just landed Ivy, which was one of their major refactor projects, so they're going to have a bunch of new shiny stuff.
We have Angular 2 now, right? Angular 2 is out?
We're on Angular 9.
Angular 9. Oh, that's a thing. Angular 9.
So Angular JS and Angular are not even closely related, which is a terrible naming. Yep, they're not even the same thing even a little bit. They're made by the same company, and they have almost exactly the same name. They're totally different products. So Angular 2 is the new Angular, which is now Angular 9. And if you learn that, there is a pretty good word for anyways. But you just won't end up with like other jobs, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you learn one, you can learn the others pretty well too. I mean, I've done professional work with Angular and React, and I started with Angular, so.
Interesting view.
Ah.
I like your reaction. Moving on.
Jokes for Angulars.
Oh, jeez.
That was the worst one.
No more. Alright. So, 420? Alright. Alright.
Not funny.
Here we go. Game manager. So, I think we're going to do time-based then. So, after, like, say, 30 seconds, it's like game over. Throw up how many points you got. And then maybe have, like, a retry. Or we go to, like, a main menu, which we will build. And, funnily enough, the scene that we're currently in, I didn't actually notice, is actually our main.unity. So we'll have to change the name from main to game and then we'll create our game to little menu. So that should be fun. Cool. All right. So let's make a field here. Now again, all this stuff over time as we go along through these meetings, we will change everything from being public to using serialized field private variables and then using properties. Okay, for now we're just going to do this just so we can get things done. So don't judge my code here, please. All right, so we'll call this, what should we call this? Time? That's a bad name. Time? Game time? G time? See, that's the hardest part. The hardest problem about programming is coming up with like variable names.
There are three major issues in programming, or two major issues in programming. There's naming things, there's caching validation, and there's off by one errors.
There you go. Sums it up right there. So I'm gonna call this off by one errors. Game time, I guess. Okay. 30 seconds float value, right? Because you have the in-betweens. All right. Game time. Cool. And so, before we start the game, right, the timer, don't we have to wait a little bit? Wasn't there like a, if we remember our game loop here, we have this start game, and in our start game we actually wait 2 seconds. Now this is in preparation so later on we can have a banner, like a little UI banner that says get ready, and then slowly fades, and then go, or something like that, you know, whatever. A lot of things we can do.
Monkey ball.
Monkey ball? Oh, yeah. Monkey ball. I remember on the GameCube. Monkey ball.
Get ready, go! Yeah!
Yeah.
I know. There's the only reason why it's in my mind. You and I watch the same YouTube, my friend.
Nice. I like that. Alright. So the next thing is we want to, obviously after 2 seconds, begin the timer. Okay? So let's do that here. Let's create a timer, enumerator. Okay? We'll call this session. And you're just going to say you return new wait for seconds this dot game time. So once we start the game, we're going to start this coroutine called session. So we will begin technically our game session, just waiting these 30 seconds. Okay. This is not a good way of doing it, forewarning, but let's just go with this for now. Okay. And so after this, we no longer want any coroutines to be running. We're going to kill our entire game loop. So I'm going to say this dot stop all coroutines. Just kill them all. No more. Okay. So let's test this out. So first I'm going to, actually, after the end of the session here, I'm just going to do a quick debug.log. We're going to say game over, and then say you scored. That way we can slowly see it in the console, right? One step at a time. Okay. Now I'm going to change it from 30 seconds to something a little bit easier to manage for now. Let's do 5 seconds. Okay. Hit play. And then let's see what happens. So it says get ready and game starting. Okay. Okay, and it's still running, so we have an error. We have a problem here. So it did say game over, you scored 10, but the game kept running. Why is that? The game loop still kept going. We couldn't stop it. So what we need to do now is look into what does stop all coroutines do. So Unity stop all coroutines. Because we told it to stop everything, but somehow, well, for some reason, it didn't. Okay. So we can read here, and let's see what happens here. So you will notice that they're actually starting the coroutines using strings. Now remember before, when we had a specific coroutine, I think it was called the monitor, where we're monitoring after like 2 seconds, then the mole will hide. I told you that we cannot stop it if we started using the IEnumerator function directly. We had to use a string. So the stop coroutine is doing the same thing. It can only stop coroutines that you call using a string. So we're kind of stuck now, right? So yeah. So how do we fix this? Now we have to change up our game loop a little bit. So we can still use the stop all coroutines to stop all the ones that we called using the quote-unquote quotes. Not quote-unquote, literally quotes. So the one that is giving us the problem is when we call a show mole, there is a monitor that gets called. Okay. It's been a while since we looked at this. Let me look at this. Okay. So we call monitor, which is a string, so that should be stopping. Then monitor mole waits 2 seconds. After that, it will call that. Okay, and that's not a problem. Ah, here it is. When it hides, it's going to call reset mole. And it's going to go back to here, right? And then back to show. So what can we do? As a quick fix, again, this is just showing that our logic is not sound in this, and rightfully so. Instead of using the function directly, we'll call it using a string. And at least for now, that should fix it. We will go back and refactor all of this. But for now, let's just go with that. So after 5 seconds, it should go away. So game over, you scored 0, and it's still going. But we're, let's see. Alright, so it's still going. So what's happening here? Yeah.
Just to like understand, so when we use a string, that's what we're supposed to use string when we start those games. We're not supposed to use.
If you want to stop them later on, you know, if I say stop reset mole, because I use a string, it can do it. If you don't do that, for some reason, how Unity implements it, I'm not entirely sure why. You can't stop them if they're not called by an ID. For some reason, it's still running. So now we have to look. Oh, this one. This is another one. Reset mole. Change this one to a string. Okay. And then, because it's the reset mode that's causing a issue. Let's try it again. So it says game over, and it's stuck now, like this. Right? And if I do that, the game loop's going to continue. Okay? So, but you saw that it stopped. So now we just gotta force the mole to hide. Right? So I'm gonna say show false. And we want to disable the collider. Now before, I remember I had said use the show to show false, and then disable collider. Do disable collider. True. You can't actually click on it. Okay, and that should fix that. Again, we're gonna go back and refactor this to make it better to work with. Because right as it stands right now, it's gonna be kind of buggy. Right? So here we have, we're whacking them all, clicking on them. And so it says you scored 15 points, and I can't do anything now. See? So the game's over now. So we finally have a game loop that finally stops after, in this case, 5 seconds. So now we should have a game over screen, right? So we should have a game over screen. So we're going to want to hide the HUD because we no longer need the HUD. So we want a way to have the HUD go away like that. And we're going to want the game over UI to pop up and say game over, you scored this many points, retry, and blah 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 blah. Okay, so what do we do? For now, let's disable this HUD and create a new canvas. Okay, and we're going to call this our game over screen, like that. And as before, last time I talked about the scale with screen size, so we're going to want to do that. So switch the constant pixel size to scale with screen size. And I believe I put this in the middle. No, I did. Match the width. Okay, fine. Okay, good. So let's find a good game over something. I don't know. Game over. Let's go for something that's like PNG. Get a transparent background. Okay. This one transparent. Hey, it's transparent, but it's black. We're not gonna be able to color it. Alright. Oh, this one's red. That's not really transparent. Hey, that was transparent. Good. We'll leave this one. Save image as. Okay. We'll call this. Alright, can we actually save the image? Probably over done. Okay. Let's open up our downloads. There's the game over. So Okay. And then drag this over here. Like that. Okay, so here it is. Our game over. I'm gonna put this inside of, oh, it's already inside there. So I'm gonna create a new folder. I'll call this art, because this is art. And then I'm gonna create a folder called UI, and I'm gonna just drag this right in here, like that. Okay. So let me link this into Discord. Do you guys need it? Do you guys want it? Or do you guys found it? Link it? Okay. Where am I? Download. Okay. Then go to Discord. And then go like that. And then just drag on there. Okay, cool. So now we're going to add an image into our UI. So right click on your canvas, go to UI, image, and then we can just drag, or not yet, we gotta click on this, our image here. Right now it's as a default, which is like a texture type. We want to switch this over to sprite. Okay, and I forget the size. This is a 512 by 256. So the largest, you take the max, so 256. Apply. Okay. Just gonna drag our image over into this little source image. And bam! It's game over. Okay. We're gonna make this a little bit bigger. We can hit set native size. So that's how as big as it was when we first found it. Now it says game over. Isn't that cool? That was pretty easy. So let's move this to the top. So I'm gonna anchor this to the top. Give it a height of, let's see here. Let's say, okay. Let's go to the scene view. Okay. So I want to set the native size. So it's a bit too big. Or does that look fine? You kind of want it to be kind of big, right? Or, all right, so it just says game over. And we'll put our information, I guess, in this area right here. Like you scored 5 points or something like that, right? So my convention is to call it image like that. We'll call it the game over. Yeah. Okay. Now we want to wait to have the points. So we'll create a text. Awesome game over screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good. It's getting there. No, it was stolen from Google. I just took it. Found the first transparent image I could find. It was, yeah. So when I have a thing which is, score, and then we want to have some kind of numbers here, right? Okay. So this is a bit small. So we'll click on best fit and then increase the height. Not too much, like 15. 32. Alright. So it looks something like that. Game over, and then your score. Not too bad, right? Okay. So we're going to need to create a new script for our game over here. So we had one for the HUD, so let's create one for our game over. Okay. Open that bad boy up. Okay, hit reload all. Okay. Okay. Now, because we're going to be dealing with UI components, we need to import the UI component namespace. So we say using Unity engine.ui. Okay. The game over needs to reference the score, where it's going to actually have the score display. So we say public text score. Okay. Okay. Now, where's the score located? Game manager, right? So we're going to follow kind of the same thing how we did the HUD. So we're going to say void, and then on start, this.score dot text you scored, right? Game manager dot instance dot score. Not bad, huh? Now, if we do it in start, we'll only be able to do this once, and we're going to be reusing the stuff, so we should probably switch this to on enable. Like that. Now, we need a way to turn this on, right? So, for now, we don't have time, but for now, just to get things going, we'll make a reference inside of Game Manager. Again, there's that dependency that we're talking about again. We'll have the Game Manager say public the game over. Call this game over. Like that. And where the session ends, right here, we're going to say this dot game over dot game object set active true. Like that. Let's go back to Unity and let's hook this up. Inside of Game Manager, we now have this game over reference that we need. And so our game over here does not have the script yet, so we need to add it. And then we're going to just hook this text into there. So I'm going to rename this text. So there it is, I referenced it. Now I'm going to just call it score. Oops, that doesn't work. Text. Score. Like that. And now I'm going to disable the game over screen. Disable it like that and re-enable the HUD. Like that. Our beautiful HUD. And so now I can reference the game over into Game Manager by just dragging it like that. Save it. Hit play. Now after 5 seconds it tells us our score. So we will select here. We have 5 points, 10 points, 5 points, and then it says there you go. Game over. You scored 15. Beautiful. Yeah? Good? Huh? I know. We still need to add a restart, a quit, you know? Maybe even like a little thing where like when the game over thing pops up, goes dun 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 or something. I don't know. Right?
I was gonna say.
Maybe not that much. Something, you know? We can start playing Darude Sandstorm or Rick Roll. Oh, make the entire game with chipmunks.
At a really high pace, that would get really annoying.
Oh my god.
Gets higher and higher in pace.
Exactly. Alright. Good? Yeah? Alright. So we need as you guys said, we need a restart. A way to restart this, right? So let's add a restart button. So in game over, let's enable this. And let's add a button. Right click on it, UI, button. There we go. And let's just put it right here, something like that. Do -120. There we go. I like to keep to my naming convention. How I do things, you guys can do however you guys like. Okay. Okay. We have this button now. So should we color this button? What color should it be? We all have all kinds of colors. Yellow? Alright. Is that a good yellow? Alright, so let's go with a HSV and make it more saturated. Like that? A lighter yellow or a darker yellow? Lighter yellow? Okay, there you go. And then let's change this text color. What color? There's all kinds of colors. So negative yellow? What is the opposite of yellow would be blue. It's over here. So okay, so we'll call this restart with a question mark, like that, or like that, or no question mark, question mark. All right.
I find that it's really like you don't really notice it every time. My go-to game is 99 times with an exclamation point or a question mark on a button. You will not notice.
So you should make it smaller, bigger. As wide as the screen. Here we go.
Yeah! Yeah! Oh yeah, that's some good stuff.
You just make one gigantic button. You know? Restart. That's it. No other option. You're forced to play again. Exactly.
Write the dogs with the force it into full screen mode. This is write a really nice website.
Restart the game, play it again.
Do it.
Right. So the source image has this UI sprite by default. I like to remove it to give me a nice, clean, sharp edges. That's just my personal preference. So. Yeah, default sprites. Yeah. It's okay. Alright, now we need to hook it up, right? So let's go to this game over and the game over script, and let's open it up. Now, let's go back to Unity real quick. And remember, this button right here has this on click. So it can actually give you the event of when the button is actually clicked. So let's hook up this restart to tell the game over the player wants to restart, and let that figure out how to restart. We'll figure it out. So remember, if you want to have something in any of the Unity events in the inspector, they have to be public. So public void on restart, like that. Okay. So let's go back to Unity and let's hook it up. So let it compile. On this on click, we're going to hit this little plus button. So you can click on that. Now we're going to drag the game over, right, the canvas that has our script onto this little object reference box. Look for our game over script and look for the on start function method. It's a reference function. Cool. Now it's hooked. Save. Now, open up the script again. I need a way to restart this. Now, how do we do this? That's one thing, right? So that's all happening in Game Manager. So Game Manager should now have a method that's public. Call it restart, like that. And then in here we need to restart a bunch of stuff. So how does this game work again? We're keeping track of the score, the game time, and we have this start coroutine, start game. So it looks like we just need to start that, kick it off again, right? Because then after that, everything's just going to go through it, you know, the entire game loop all over again. We just need to start the start game all over again. No, because the start game, if we go to start game, where is it at? When we call it once, it's going to just do all this stuff and then it just dies. So once the first mole shows up, that the start game is actually, that this enumerator is dead. Yep. Oh, okay. So on restart, we need to restart the score. So this dot score is equal to 0. So reset the score, and this dot start coroutine, this dot start game, just like that. Okay, there's a bug in here, but we'll worry about that next time. Okay, so on restart in game over, when the button gets clicked, now all we have to do is say game manager dot instance dot restart, and there we go. Now the game manager will restart all of its logic, which is just resetting variables how you said, and restart the entire loop again. And now we're just going to disable the game over screen by calling this dot game object set active false. We're going to turn this game object off so the game over screen goes away. Okay. And let's do that. So first, make sure your game over game object is disabled, like that. Save, play. Now after 5 seconds, the game is over. This is just for testing purposes. It says you scored 15. Restart. Here we go. There you go. Now, you'll notice that the score here stays at 15 even after I hit restart. Now, why is that? But when I hit that, the 5, it goes back to 5. Because inside of Game Manager, before, every time we changed the points, we were always invoking this on-scored. See that? Right here? On the got whack, we were actually raising the event of the score changing. We didn't do that. So we need to go here and say this dot on scored. Because the HUD is still listening, right? Yeah, public void get public void. Properties. Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna come back and refactor all this because all this is like terrible, but it's good enough for now. But yeah, because this, when we set the score, we should automatically call this. That way we don't have to worry about it. You know, it should all work together. Okay, so that should fix that problem. So let's go back and hit play. My microphone entangled. Okay. 5, 10, 15. What was it? 20. Hit restart. The score goes back to 0.
So this method is doing it and then counting the likely multiple restarts.
Yes. And it will cause, when we have our actual, like when we have a little button here, like to pop up a little menu and you want to force restart in the middle of a game, will cause a problem. That's why later on we have to come back and refactor all of this. We're just taking baby steps here. You know, a lot of this is just to show you guys how Unity looks, how it works, and then come back and fix this. A lot of things need to change, but for now I want people to be able to play with it, and so far it works. So what is you guys' goal now from here to Thursday? Build to WebGL and throw it up onto your Athena. Now all of us are probably, or should, you guys really should, have your own project, and you're supposed to be following along. So your guys' Whack-A-Mole project may or may not look similar to mine. I don't know, as far as aesthetics goes. So, you know, play around with the colors, change it up. If you're a modeler, you know, like I know Kelly's a modeler. So, you know, update your, you know, your scene, make it look cool, and then we'll show it off next time. Everybody can see, you know, the UI, the HUD looks better than this, and all kinds of stuff. That'd be pretty cool. Now you can see progress, right? That's the nice thing about having WebGL is you can actually share your project. So when somebody says, "Hey, I'm working on this project or on this game, can I get some feedback?" The cool thing about a game is you can get instant feedback depending on how you deploy it. For example, we have WebGL. We can just throw it up there and be like, "Hey, can you test my game? Can you play around with it? Let me know. What do you think?" Bam, easy peasy. Give them a link. Done. You have somebody's like, "Hey, do you know how to make a game?" "Yeah, I know how to kind of make a game." Maybe a future employer. Send them a link. Bam, easy peasy. Right? Right. Cool. So we're out of time. So we'll end it here, and I'll see you guys on Thursday.